All right,
Okay,
there we are.
looks like we're live.
We are.
Well, welcome back to another episode of the Update Log. Thank you guys for joining us again on Wednesday, as normal. Again, hopefully you guys had a good Labor Day weekend and just a good weekend in general. 3-day weekends are rare as an adult. Um, Sometimes
Yep.
it just feels like you're working all the time. But yeah, welcome to episode 18 of the Update Log. This is our first guest appearance. Hopefully, and definitely not our last. Especially of OldmanGeras. Thank you, first of all, thank you, Garris, for joining us, for coming on. Uh, it's just me, Greg, and Matt as usual. So, Garris, I'm going to let you introduce yourself to the crowd. Tell us a bit about yourself and kind of what brought you here.
Absolutely. Well,
Besides
thank
me
you
asking.
so much. Yeah. Well, yeah, and I was going to say thank you for the invite. That's kind of what brought me here. Hello, everyone. My name is Garris. I go by Old Man Garris pretty much everywhere, whether it's YouTube, here on Twitch, Google, like whatever exists. I am the old man that is out there. Um, I'm here because these wonderful gentlemen asked me to come in and talk a little bit about my background. I have a retail background. I have been in the retail side of the gaming industry for well over 20 years, so quite a bit of time. I've also been on the development side as a developer, as QA, as never a publisher, but kind of every other side of it, whether it's TTRPGs, video games, software like applications itself, or even mobile applications. So a variety of different areas in my background.
The man has done quite a bit, and we're gonna kind of cover that tonight. Um, but oh, did I move to a different? Hold on. Oh no, I'm okay. I'm good. Sorry, I thought I moved somewhere else. All right. What's new? What's new? We're always having technical difficulties.
It's not
Also, yeah,
technical difficulties.
before we do get into it, I want to make sure the audience can hear us. As for those of you who are in the audience, we're good. Okay, good to go. Just want to make sure everybody can hear us. Okay, there we go. So Garrus, you mentioned kind of being in the retail side of the industry for more than 20 years and a couple of other spaces as well. Kind of what got you into the gaming industry? And
Hmm.
kind of what pulled you in that direction, I guess.
So I'm going to go way back in time, like the 80s.
He's gonna activate his
So
DeLorean.
yeah, exactly.
Before I was even
Yeah.
born.
Whoa.
Going back
And
quite a
Jared looks at
while.
me and is like, I don't know where he came from. He was here when we got here, you know? I got into gaming in an interesting way. Uh, Video gaming, I'll start with that because that's a little bit different than role plays and board games. Video gaming, I was introduced by my math teacher,
Your
who
math teacher.
my math teacher. So way back when there were no computer teachers, there were no computers really in schools. And I had a math teacher who somehow was able to get a VAX system and computerize the school that I went to. This is
Nice.
late 70s, early 80s. And I was fascinated, absolutely fascinated by an orange monitor, orange and black monitor, little 13-inch thing that I could type on a keyboard and make things happen. Uh, I was very lucky in that he kind of took me under his wing
Mm.
and encouraged me to use and learn computers. And that started programming. There were no real games back then, other than Pong and Moonlander. Lander. I can't even remember the name of it. It's one of the first programs I worked on. Lunar Lander. There it is. Man, you're making me think. Old men can't think that far back, all right? But it got me hooked. I can do ASCII art and things happen, right? And the programming, and so that really got me hooked onto video games, and it's lasted right up until today. I'm still very much involved in it. The board games and role playing actually came at about the same time. So I was back in Massachusetts during this time. So back east. And I went to, comic books were big. Growing up as kids, comic books were huge. And there was a comic book store that was probably around 30 minutes away. And I had a friend who was able to drive me over there. And we went over there, and there's something called Dungeons. It actually was Chainmail at that point, or Dungeons and Dragons that he had there that he was talking about. And I was like, ooh, what is this? What are you talking about? And so we went through the explanations, and I got hooked really, really hard in it. Forgot all about comic books, completely forgot about it, and discovered a new life. Yeah, it was eye-opening, especially back then. Then I thought, oh, it's only at this comic book store, right? There's local authors here from upstate New York, and I'm in Massachusetts, real close to the border. So there's people who know about it and have worked on it, and so I'm like super, super into it. And then I go to a bookstore, and it's Walden Books, which doesn't exist anymore. Greg, you probably remember Walden Books, maybe. B. Dalton, right? Absolutely. So I went to Walden Books, and sci-fi was my thing. Still love sci-fi. And I'm going through sci-fi books, looking at what Tor has published. And next to sci-fi typically is the occult books. Yeah. Because back then in the 70s and 80s, they're the same thing. And sure enough, Dungeons and Dragons, first edition, is under occult.
Yeah, I heard
like,
about those stories.
Yeah, the old. Yeah. I've heard about that as well. Old days when it was considered like Satan worship to play D&D.
It was. It really was. I mean, I can tell you stories coming from a religious background, a Hispanic religious background. The devil was pretty much in me all the time. Yeah, you hear that moan from Rob over there? He knows. Yeah. So, I was like, it's in a store. Just blew my mind. And so, that got me hooked. Now, back then, my parents were separated, were divorced. And my father lived in a little island out in the Caribbean called Puerto Rico. And my mother was back east. And so I would travel very frequently to go and spend time with him. So I would fly. I would be one of those kids where back then, when life was crazy, but somehow it was okay for a kid to go to Boston and get on an airplane by himself and fly 5.5 hours away, get off an airplane by themselves, walk through luggage, and then meet somebody over there. Very different world than now. But it was completely safe, as crazy as that sounds. But I used to go back and forth, and I spent a lot of time doing that. And then as I got older and leading into my teens and into college, I kept doing the trips on a regular basis. And I would take my D&D stuff and comics. My dad was huge into comics. So I would take this stuff with me. I'd be like carrying a suitcase of material. Forget clothes. I had clothes back there. I didn't need clothes. It's 100 degrees over there, right? What do I need clothes for? Just give me a pair of shorts and a t-shirt. But look, I got books and comics. And so I would go there with a suitcase. And most of the time it'd be like, hey, let's go somewhere. I'm like, we're playing D&D. And I'd be teaching my stepbrothers or my cousins, right? And my dad, God bless him, he was like, I don't know, that's kind of devil stuff, but he would let us do it. My aunt's a little more like, no, you're not doing that in our house. How could you do that? All the normal
Dude,
stuff. A chancla would show up every once in a while, like, get
yeah,
out of our house.
for the Hispanics, it's usually the women that are like, no,
Yes,
no, you can't do that. Men are like, nah, whatever.
exactly. But so I was doing the trips back and forth, and really, you know, my sister was like, I have no interest, whatever. You go do your nerd stuff. I'm going out with my friends, and we would just keep doing that, and that led to a point where I was like, I'm kind of tired of this. Of every month, every 2 months, every 3 months, like a big suitcase coming up with, here's a bunch of comics. And I'd be going back with a bunch of money to buy more stuff, right? It's like restocking.
So you were a mule, just not for
I was
drugs.
a mule for role playing games and for comic books. It's not illegal because it's Satan worshiping, right? So
Yeah,
you're
that's
okay. Well, no
fine.
one's going to mess with you. Um, yes, that is very true. Right next to the science fiction, but still the fiction area,
Yeah,
right? And then you'd
yeah.
have like magazines and stuff because you
Why
might as well
not?
have
Yeah,
healing, crystals they would have and little knickknacks like that because it's the 70s and 80s.
yeah,
They don't know. They don't know. Just it's on the news. It must be bad.
yeah. Of
Rock
course.
music. Um, D. Snyder was in Congress. Oh no, look at it. Just really dumb stuff back then. But so I was doing this traveling back and forth,
Mm.
and my dad's like, why don't you keep bringing stuff over here? Do you want us just to like let you know what we want instead of you just, the comic books? I was just grabbing a whole bunch and things that I liked, and I would just bring them, and they'd be like, oh, okay, well, I don't want that one. I want this, and so we started doing like ordering, and it turned into the hey, you know what? Why don't I just there's in the island, most houses have like a driveway that's associated with the house. You actually pull up next to the house, and it's covered. It's not a garage,
Mm.
but it's attached to the patio. And so you
Gotcha.
park your car underneath this covering or awning, and that's where you park. And there's a room back there typically, and it's like, hey, why don't you like start selling some of this stuff, like the older stuff?
Mm.
I was like, I don't know. And we went back and forth, and he was like, we got boxes of comics, like boxes and boxes of comics, not in sleeves because we didn't have them, or I didn't know about them back then,
Yeah.
but and then more books, and so we started a little business, and he was like, I'll take care of it while you're not here, and then my sister got involved because my dad's like, I got to go to work, and so we started this literally off the side of a house, and
As
that
all great
was kind of our
stories
first.
begin.
That was the first location that we started, and then it grew from there. Right?
Yeah.
It started word of mouth. People started hearing more ordering, and it's like, hey, maybe I need to, be legit in this occult stuff that I'm bringing over there. But and it grew that way.
Uh,
It was a little rocky at the beginning. I made a lot of bad decisions, but you learn from your mistakes. Lessons
all right.
learned is always a big thing.
All right. No.
Yeah, I mean, sounds like
So
as much of a grassroots start as you can possibly get.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, all the best
Yeah.
stories have them. But so you mentioned how that was kind of the first quote unquote store, kind of selling out of your side of your house. So for those of you guys who don't know Garris, yeah, I mean, and he's going to go into it, but he has opened a number of gaming stores in his illustrious career. But my next question is kind of like, what made you open that first store out, aside from your house?
Mhm.
And kind of how did you like decide on the location and kind of what you were going to carry? Like talk us kind of through that process because it's something I think a lot of gamers, and again, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think it's something, at least for me, I was always curious about, but I personally definitely took it for granted. I'm like, oh, I'll just go to my local gaming store, do the thing, and don't really think about it. But I'm sure there's a lot that kind of goes into that. So, as someone kind of on the other side of that counter, talk us kind of through that, and how you kind of made the decisions that you made, especially after fumbling kind of through that first iteration, out of the side of your house kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, great question. And what I did back then
Mm.
and what I would do today, there are a lot of commonalities, but again, hindsight being 2020, there are things that I would change a little bit. The things
Yeah,
that I would not change. Well, I guess the question is what made me leave the house, so
yeah,
to
yeah.
speak, and
For me,
actually decide to pay someone
yes,
for a location.
yeah. Like, what made you kind of
That
just be like, okay, I'm gonna make this a not that it wasn't a legitimate business, but I'm gonna make this a business, like a storefront business.
yeah. Yep. So, we did this for a while.
Hmm.
And it was good. It was word of mouth, right? My cousins were telling their friends, "Hey, we got comics," right? Because comics was big back then. We got
Yeah.
comics over there, and they're cheap because I couldn't charge full price because they're like well we kind of use them, so you know yeah,
Yeah.
used comics as the value goes down, right? Oh, you read the words; they're going to disappear after you read them 3 times, and you'll never see them again. Not really smart on the business aspect of it. But we went in and we got a little hole in the wall is the best way to put it, and it really was. One window, one door, and not much storage in the back. That was it. But it had a
Wait,
counter
one window
and
and one door in Puerto Rico in the summer?
in the summer,
Oh
and
my
it's
god.
concrete buildings, right? You
Oh,
know this.
that's terrible. It's
So
horrible.
it was a literal hole in the wall, but it was a part time, right? One,
Mm,
I'm not there all the
yeah.
time. In the summers, I was, but during the regular year, during the school year, during my college, I got to have my sister watch it or one of my cousins that I knew,
Mm,
and he would take care of it. But we made sure that it was only open in the evenings because whether they're in school or they're working, not everybody was available.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and that was actually a smart thing because at that time, the audience that was coming in were teens, younger people, right in their 20s, who also had jobs or school that they were going to. So it worked out really good unintentionally. We didn't know what we were doing. It's just, oh, I'm not available. I can't open up.
Yeah.
And so it worked. And then, we started doing the business stuff like, oh, let's start keeping track of the money because you got to pay taxes. The government really wants their money. You
Yeah, they
can't, your hard work is there to give them money, not for you to actually live off of it.
do.
And so we were like, yeah, we got to actually keep track of it. And we were doing that and we're like, hey, this is kind of working.
Oh,
This really is, we're making some money. We're making profit.
mm,
And so we were like, all right, it's really hot at 7 p.m. in on the island in a concrete house with one window. And did we? I don't think we even had a ceiling fan. I think we had like a standing fan in there to just keep air moving around. There were no air conditioners. Well, we couldn't afford an air conditioner if there were any. But we said, hey, let's figure out if we can run it. And so my sister and I sat down, and she really pushed really hard. And there were circumstances like normal in family lives where you're like, hey, this might help both of us.
mm,
And so we went through that exercise of if we do this, what do we bring in? How much money do we have to spend? Right? Like how much of our savings are we going to put into it? How are we going to manage it? How much is rent? And then you probably need some kind of insurance, which we did, and we're glad we got it. But it's a lot of that. Well, what do we need? Let's go talk to somebody I know and see what they do, what they had to do, right? Because they
mm,
have a little store there, and figure it out that way. And so we ended up after a couple of months, because as most people know, I am I'm going to figure every angle out before I actually do it. That way I know what I'm
That's not
doing.
my way to be.
Yeah. I'm not going to jump in. I'm like, all right, I got a spreadsheets all over with multiple tabs just to see this. But
Sounds like someone else we know.
I don't know. Who are we talking about? Is that Greg?
Greg.
You know anything? You want to say anything on this one? I mean,
Doesn't sound like
Not
someone
until
you
he
know,
speaks
Greg.
to his lawyers.
on the advice of my attorneys, I respectfully plead the fifth. Yeah, I get it. But we found a location. We're like, is this the right one? Do we want to do this? Because if we're signing up for it, we're stuck here a year, right? 1 year lease.
Yep.
And we went back and forth. It seemed like a really good place. It was a really good place, I should say. It was, near the schools. We were like, hey, we're going for the kids. We're gonna make money off them. And we didn't get the place.
Oof.
We went to sign the papers, and the guy was like, hey, yeah, somebody else just came in and they took it and they just signed this morning. And it was heartbreaking. We're like, oh, we had said, this is it, right? This was right. And it was a blessing for us, honestly, because it again, hindsight, looking back, it would not have been the right place for us. So
Gotcha.
It made me do and I'm a big, I believe in, is it karma? I guess it's karma. If something, or maybe fate, if something's meant to happen, it's going to happen, right? So I was like, all right, well, this didn't work. There's got to be another place. And as we started looking, my sister was like, well, who are we selling to? Are we really going for the kids? Because, they're not going to have much money. They're in high school. They have part-time jobs. And that made me start thinking, who is our audience? Do I want to keep selling comics, used comics, and what few pieces of RPG material that I don't want to keep, right? Because I'm like, I want my collection. What do you mean I need to sell it to you? Right. But what is it that we wanted to do? And so I spent close to a month and a half trying to figure things out. And back then, and this is now the 80s, there was no internet, no chamber of commerce to say, hey, show me what your demographics are. Show me, how many, males between the ages of 18 and 28 are in your community, and how many are, there's none of that back then.
There was a lot of legwork, a lot of just kind of asking
there
around.
Was. There was. And I decided, and she was like, yeah, maybe we adjust it. But I was saying, hey, we focus on comics because we know comic books. We bring in some role playing because I've taught everybody, or like all my cousins all know, right? And, there's 15 people right there that know it, and they're showing their friends and they're running adventures. We can sell that stuff. And let's bring in like knickknacks. And so it was like, great. Found a distributor that would ship to the island, because that was a challenge, right? It's not as easy as, hey, I get a delivery every week from FedEx, or UPS, they pull up my weekly delivery. You're on an island. You are getting products from the mainland, from the US, that are either you're paying for it to get on an airplane, which means you're paying a lot of money, or you're sending it regular mail, or it's going to be on a boat. And you're going to wait. But we found a distributor based out of Florida that would work with us and help us get the products. And so we said, okay, those are the products that we want. We know what the product lines are. What's our audience? I went with what I thought was the audience for us. And where's the community? Where is it going to be? And then we found a completely different town that was 45 minutes away from us, from where our original place was going to be, which was near our house, like walking distance from the square to our house, much further away. But it checked off every box that we wanted.
Gotcha. So,
we were like, okay.
You ended up with a much better spot.
Well, we ended up with a better spot, but the business model at that point was not right. So we knew who our audience was.
Okay.
We knew who we wanted. We wanted actually the ages from, I think we had said from 14 to, and we didn't know you should be narrow. We're like, oh yeah, from 14 to like 40 years old, because that's the audience that we want. Like one product line that's going to cover that much of a gap, you're crazy. We were. And so, we started and we didn't do well. We didn't make money off of comics. They would get there, they're late. They'd sometimes be damaged from the shipping over. Time would go by and they're not consistent, right? Comics every month, right? Or every week, every other week nowadays, right? When they're going to get there and when they release. It wouldn't always get there. It'd sometimes be, instead of every 4 weeks, it's every 5 or 6 weeks you would get it, or you wouldn't get it. And now you're like, oh, well, did they run out? Let me go and call someone and, can I get it? Oh, it'll be my next order unless I want to pay. So now it's another 4 weeks that I have to wait. So now 10 weeks before maybe I'll get it then, right? So that didn't work for us. Role-playing did.
Yeah,
role-playing did. And at that point, the market changed a little bit, right? Comics were still, I want to say, in their heyday, back in the 80s and now going into the 90s. They were still very popular. People were buying it, prices were going up, but you started seeing more on games, board games, right? Everybody knows Life and Monopoly and those types of games. But now you're seeing these custom or designer games that were coming out. And especially in the 90s and 2000s, more and more started going towards that.
I think we lost.
We started doing really well at our location there.
We did. Okay. Oh, there you are. Garris, just I wanted to tack something on really quick to what you're saying there. Comics in particular they were always traditionally more of an add-on sale. Even in the U.S., when it comes to, that market was always hard to make money. If you were just going to open up a store selling comic books, you had to sell a pile of comic books to actually be able to even cover your overhead. So,
and what I learned from that is, even like right now, if you were to say, if you had a business and you want to carry comic books, there is one provider of all comic books for North America, not just the US. And they're the only ones that carry all of them. So you're going to have to go through them, and your margins are going to be ridiculously high.
Or low.
Well, yeah, low, right? Yeah. Because you're right. If nowadays comics sell for what, $5 to $8, unless you're going for premium, in which case probably. Now a graphic novel, $20 to $30.
Yeah,
for that graphic novel.
Back then they were like what, $1.75, $2.
Yeah.
I mean,
they still had 99-cent comics.
Yeah,
those are great.
In answer to your question, Rob, it really comes down to the problem you ran into with if you were just going to have a comic business, is they're low ticket, low margin items. So, I mean, at $2 a crack, and then say you're only making 30%, I mean, that's 60 cents per book. It takes a whole lot of 60 cents to cover just the rent on your space. I mean,
no. Well, the reason why it kind of surprised me that they weren't as popular is because you have some comics out there, and I know we're getting off on a tangent, but that's okay. That's what we do here at the Update Log. You've had some comics out there that are worth millions, and I guess, in the back of my head, I understand that that's scarcity or a particular author or illustrator or whatever edition, but it's like, damn.
Well, that's a different market because now you're talking about a reseller market. That's totally
Yeah.
different. Which I mean, I I definitely understand what Garris is talking about, and wow, I couldn't imagine, especially back then, I couldn't imagine trying to make a business out of selling just comic books. That would be very hard.
I actually have a question regarding that. Because now I'm not too knowledgeable of like the comic book industry, but I have heard that like in recent years, it's been on quite a downward slope. Do you think like
Yes.
that like what you just talked about has a part to play in that downward slope?
There are a couple of things that affected it and have made it drop down. One is the increased price. So comic books are not cheap. Comic
No.
books used to be, honestly, they were 99 cents. I remember I would be able to walk in with $1 and walk out with one, maybe two comics. If it was Archie, I can get like two comics or more with something like that. And that was entertaining, right? I would have one, I would share it with somebody, they would read it, right? I would share it with someone else, right? This was a big thing to have comics. I mean, if you look back when it really started in the 50s, right, there were penny comics, literally 1 penny, and you would walk out with a comic book. And the price, when you look at it now, is so much more, $6 starting for a comic. And the market has changed in that the casual readers aren't going to go to a store. They're not going to go to Barnes and Nobles and pay $6 per comic and walk out with 2 Batmans, 3 Spider-Mans, a Superman, and a Justice League. Right? That's 3, 6, 7 that I just said right there.
Mm-hmm.
That
So
adds
$42
up.
for 7
Yeesh.
comics.
Yeah.
And especially when I can just go online
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
I can subscribe to Marvel or DC. They both have subscription services and have access to some of their library. Neither of them have fully released their library. They're controlling it because they want to keep people to coming back and staying with them. But it's a method for me to just stay, I can stay home. $10 a month and I could read, a ton of their comics on there for each one of them.
Yep.
And so as a store, and I know a couple of stores that still are heavily into comics, the challenge that they have is how do I get people to keep coming back? Not the collectors. Those will always come back. The people who are like, hey, I want every new comic that comes out, issue number 1, at least 2 copies of it. And I want bags. I want the cardboard because I'm going to take it. I'm going to seal it. I'm going to put it in a box because it might be worth money down the road. You never know.
Mm.
Those are your collectors. They will always keep coming back. But how do you keep everyone else from coming back? So that's where you start diversifying what you're carrying. Sports cards were huge, were massive. So you would see comic books and sports cards. Tried it, failed, hated it. But there are businesses that did that. And it doesn't work anymore. Now you can go to Walmart, you can go to Target, right? Any big box, and just on the shelf, there are now complete boxes of cards, and you can just take that, go and buy. You don't need to go to a specialty shop for that. You can go there and pick up comic books again, and you don't need to go to a shop to get it. I can pick up groceries and I can pick up my comics, some of them,
Yep. All
at
in
the
one
exact same
shot.
time.
Oh.
So as a retailer, if I were to focus and say, I'm going to carry comics and that's my primary, I need to have a lot of secondary and tertiary items to sell to make people want to come there. Board games is the big thing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Specialty board games, there are a number of people who love them and are going to play it. But those are popping up all over. Everybody's getting into that because that's also the group who wants to play card games. Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, and then all the specialty card games. So now you've really turned what was comic book focused into a board game store or a card game store.
Mm. So is that kind of realization what made you kind of diversify what you were carrying?
It did. We're not making money. We literally were
Yeah,
losing money,
that's a big motivation.
right? Hey, school's out and
What?
nobody is in the area, so I'm not making any money anymore. What? You mean they're not going to keep coming back here, even though they don't have to be here anymore?
You greedy
They're the-
capitalist, you.
I know. It's so weird. It's like I got to pay bills or something. I don't, it was so strange. I did not understand it. And so we were like, all right, well, what do we do? We still had the one location. And I spent a lot of time like I'm bleeding money. I'm hemorrhaging money at this point.
Yeah.
Any savings, I'm just watching it go out. Like every month, hundreds of dollars are leaving. And back in the 80s and 90s, hundreds of dollars is a lot of money.
Yeah.
A lot. So, the internet was picking up. By then, I had the business up for a while. And I
At
tell
that
my
point, was
sister,
it
hey,
just the one store?
it was still one.
It was
So I'm
the
like,
one-
hey, can you go to City Hall and talk to them and kind of see, what's happening in the town, find out things, right? Chamber of Commerce sort of kind of existed, not really. It was just businesses getting together. It's small towns, everybody knows everybody. And right, it's just, what's working and what's not. And just get the feel for what's going on there. And so she did. She started talking, building those relationships. And then when I would travel down there, getting them to know me. And we shifted away from the heavy comics to let's do some board games. Let's do more role-playing games. And let's start doing miniatures, bringing those in.
Oh, that's definitely a big shift.
And it was a big shift, right? And the reason that I did that was my distributor was like, hey, we have this product line that's coming in. It's by this company called Games Workshop. They have these like little minis.
Yeah.
Really? And I was like, well, what's a mini? Like, what? What am I? How do I sell that? Oh, well, they can go and they have to put it together. I'm like, wait, so they're like model cars, right? We all know what model cars and model airplanes are.
Yep.
I'm like that? They're like, no, these are really small. And right, you can sell paint and we have a bundle. And I was like, I feel like I'm wasting money, right? I'm already losing money. And now you want me to spend, a couple of $100s to buy a bundle, a kit that has all the stuff put in that I have no idea anything about. And somehow I need to talk my sister into, hey, I need you to push this while you're there selling it. And at that point, I still had my cousin there. Like, I need you to learn it so that you can teach it when people come in and talk about it intelligently. It worked. We sold that stuff like you would not believe. Like I had
Flash
never
crack.
seen something come in and get out so fast.
Oh.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, what is this? We sold everything. Like, yeah, you have some paints left and you have no brushes and every kit is gone. Every blister pack is gone. I was like, this is crazy. I'm like, all right. Well, I'll order. So I ordered another one. And I'm like, just one more. And he's like, I told you it was going to. I'm like, yeah, okay, thanks. I think his name was like Jeff or something. I'm like, yeah, thanks. All right, I just need one, and here's my normal stuff. Got it. I was thinking a fluke. It wasn't a fluke. And so I was like, hey,
hotcakes again.
Yeah, I was like, there might be something here. And so when I went down the next month, I was like, I had another order come in around the same time. And I was like, just keep it in the back because I want to talk to people when they come in asking about it or when they go to buy it because I want to know what the draw is. And so I'm talking to them and they're like, oh, yeah. They're not playing it. They're literally taking it and just putting it together and painting together. It becomes a social thing for them.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, wow. And I started thinking, if they want to do it together, right? They're not playing D&D. They're just painting stuff. And so, and I'm like, hey, cousin, come over here. Teach me. What is this game? Learned it. I was like, all right, so they need dice, and we just set up a table.
And for those of
And
you who don't know, he's
so it's
talking
like
about
D&D
Warhammer
except for
40K.
minis.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we went down that road, and we set up one table. I don't know, it was like towards the back or something. Because I was like, they just want to paint it. They're not playing. Interest started. And so I took it to hey, if it sells here, then we're just going to push this. Slowly phased out and completely phased out the comics over like 2-month period of time, and transitioned over to this new minis. Board games were selling pretty good. And at that point, not knowing a lot about it, I was like, yeah, whatever's hot, just new products, great. I'll take like one of everything.
Gotcha.
And
Okay,
something
you
sold,
were
some
definitely
didn't.
testing the market there.
Yeah,
So
that's
okay.
exactly it.
Yep.
Decided I can't keep doing that, because even though I'm making money, I'm buying a lot of stock that's now sitting in the back that's not moving.
Yeah.
And so I went and I was like, all right, we need to know what we're going to sell. We need to be focused on this. Just like, and I went to my computer background. I'm like, we need to know exactly what our outcome needs to be. So let's get our requirement. Oh, I can't believe I'm saying this. Matt, you're loving this. Got to get our requirements. Let's figure out the target audience that this is aimed for, and let's focus on them.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did that. And the store became a mini store, heavy minis.
Gotcha.
Some role playing, very little board games. But it came to the point where people started traveling in, because we had product that was there. And there was only one other store that was in the capital, which was, for some of these people, 2.5 to 3 hours away from them.
Yeah.
Each way. So, that's 3 hours there, pick up product, 3 hours back. It's a long day.
I don't love any game that goddamn much. I'm sorry. I taking a whole ass trip to die. There's no game on the planet I love that much. But
hey, people still travel for like
yeah.
events for Warhammer, right? Let's be honest.
Oh, yeah.
There are people that
true, yeah.
fly across the country to go to Nova and Adepticon and whatever other events that they run.
Gen Con.
To be part of that.
Gen Con.
Gen Con.
Right.
I mean, anyone
people go
yeah.
to.
I mean, we actually have a friend of ours, a good friend of ours. His name is Bobby, and he plays Warhammer, the tabletop. And he's played it for years. He always shows off his stuff.
He's big into the minis.
Yeah, he's really good. He's really good at painting too. He's a really good painter.
Oh yeah.
Most of the people that are, especially Warhammer, most of the people that are into the tournament play they're Bobbies.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah. And he's into that tournament stuff. He's telling us stories all the time about the recent tournaments and stuff.
Yeah, the recent 10th edition that just came out and all that jazz.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a huge Warhammer fan myself, so
it's a hell of a lot of fun, but man, is it expensive.
Yeah, that's why it's called Workshop getting that dough. Oh yeah. Game Workshop's out here just pulling in the money, especially because they have Henry Cavill endorse their stuff now. I mean,
$300 a starter box, is that a lot of money? I don't know. They don't think so. Their players don't think so. They sell out of it.
The market says it's not. Market says it's fair price. So
hey, what they gotta make that money too, I guess. I mean, I pay for it? No.
That's the thing with marketing, though, guys. Is it really just comes down to what will the market bear, and your customer will tell you what they're willing to pay. Not necessarily like face to face. Yeah, I'll pay you this much, but you figure out where your basic principles to business and marketing is, that you take it from a store shelf standpoint. Okay, if you have 10 spaces for a particular product on that shelf, and this is like boiling it down to the simplest supply and demand terms. Okay, you have 10 spots on that shelf for product. Okay, when you've hit the right price, what the market will bear depending on what your cycle is. So if you order once a week, if you're selling all 10 of those products or 9 of those products by the time you are getting your next order, then you're priced correctly. If you're selling out before your next order comes, you're too low. If you're only selling 5, then you're too high.
Okay, that's something to keep in mind. And kind of piggybacking off of what Greg just said, just in kind of a different lane, was I guess, was the minis, the combination of the interest in minis and the location, did that kind of decide what you were going to carry? Like tell like speak, talk to us a bit about that, because again, you're in Puerto Rico, you're in a particular town and what have you, and again, there's always different demographics and whatnot. But I guess, like Greg said, they kind of, the community kind of told you, hey, this is what we like, so do this.
It is. So yes, it did. And I made sure while I was there and while my sister and cousin were there, talk to the people, not just, hey, how are you? Oh, you're looking for this? Yeah, it's right here. That'll be $7.83. Have a great day. We'll see you next week. But do that. Hey, how are you? Are you looking for that? Great. Yeah. Hey, what do you like about that? Really? That's what you do with it? Uh-huh. And is there something you're looking for like that? What don't you like about it? Right. And so I had them, and it was tough because instead of the typical retail, hey, when somebody has decided they want to buy something, you want to take their money as fast as possible and get them out the door so they don't change their mind. Right. To
Yeah.
this day,
Yep.
that is the retail mentality. If somebody has decided to buy something, take their money, because they can change their mind and walk away and you didn't make anything. Once they say they want it, ring up that sale so they can leave.
Yep.
Because people do not like to return things or say, I changed my mind. Can you avoid that? It's that having taken advantage of someone when they're like, yeah, okay, I'll take it. Great. Let me ring you up for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I worked seasonally at a GameStop once, and that's very much what they were having me do. Like, just try to get the money out of them, try to sell them, our premium service as hard as possible. And it wasn't it wasn't as fun as I thought working in a video game store would have been. But I mean, that's GameStop. That's more of just a yeah. They just sell games. It's not like a lot of other game stores that you see where they'll actually have like like a gathering place for people to actually build a community around.
Yeah.
Yep,
And
I see it, Garris.
and that was
Yeah,
actually kind of part of why I wanted Garrus on the show is that community aspect. And I'm gonna let him explain more on that. But him, his sister, and just the way he ran his business definitely was not the atypical, hey, you want that, I'm gonna take your money. They really cared about the community. And again, Garrus, I'll let you kind of expand on that piece there.
Yeah, and it was those questions by me telling them, hey, I need that information.
Yeah.
We need to understand so that I'm not just blindly, oh, and another, set came out. Yeah, I'll just order like Greg was saying. How many am I selling? All right, I'm going to order that plus maybe 10% and see if I'm coming in over or under what the demand is going to have. So the conversation, having them ask that, and money at this point, it was profitable and for the first time we started to like come out in the positive, right? In the black, so to speak, instead of in the red.
Yeah.
And that was huge. We were like, holy cow, we did it. Because it was sustained. It wasn't just like, hey, this month we actually made $3. We didn't lose money. Hey.
There you go.
It was, it was enough where it's like, hey, this is enough to pay for me flying back and forth every month instead of me paying it out of my pocket. and we still have money left over.
Yeah.
So we with the feedback that we received from the people who were coming in, we really just focused on that area there for the products that we were carrying. And I was like, you know what? Sis, you're like way over there. You know, you got your degree and you moved further away. What's it like over there? And she's like, well, there's nothing over there. You know? I'm like, well, what are people doing? You know, and they're like, oh, we hang out or we drive, 30 minutes down to Mayagüez, a large city, right? And just, I was like, hey, maybe we should open another store. It's closer to you. You can, instead of driving all the way here, you can like just go there. And, we'll just have my cousin and, maybe we can bring somebody else to work in. And so we did some more research and started talking to people, some of the businesses that were there. And we found a nice location kind of near where a number of restaurants were. And so we're like, hey, this might work out because there's a lot of foot traffic. The mall's not far away. There's a lot of people coming all around this area and a lot of young people.
Yeah.
Let's see what we can do, right? Let's do like a 6 month. I don't want to lock in to a 1 year or multi-year. Let's see if we can get 6 months for this place. And we said, and let's focus on the people who are around here. And so we did some minis. We actually did not do a lot. We did board games because they were a younger crowd. And we did some cards. No comics. Comics were from the failure before, they were gone. So they were completely out. And it worked. We had to adjust and tweak. Minis did not sell. They're higher priced than most other games or materials that are out there.
Oh yeah.
Right. Even back then, a blister pack could still be $8 to $10 when you can buy a pack of dominoes or a deck of cards for like $2.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody knows how to play those, so I'm just going to buy that.
And for those of you who don't know, Puerto Ricans love their dominoes, boy.
Absolutely. It's a fantastic game.
It is a fun game. For those of you who've never played, highly recommend.
So we opened up the second location and we focused on that. Again, minis were not selling, and we actually had to slow down on minis at our first location. But the second was keeping us going.
Gotcha.
So we started talking, and I'm like, hey, who's coming over? Like, what kind of people are coming in? Can we just like keep a notebook next to the register? Just like guess at their ages and just put a line. Let's count people who walk by, who look in and don't stop, right? We had separate column, and just give me an idea, because we're going to start losing money. So we did that. I went at the end of the month, I looked at it and like, these numbers look weird. This can't be right, because it was skewed at an older, what they said were older people. And I'm like, let's do it again. Let's do it for another month. And the numbers were skewed again the exact same way. There were a lot of older people who would walk by, stop, look in the doorway or in the window, or come in, look around, turn on and walk out. And so we were heading towards summer, and I was like, all right, you know what? Since I'm going to be here all summer, let me just stay in this store. You guys go focus on the other store, because I'm looking at growing that. And so I stayed at this store, and I started talking to the people that were coming in, that were not the audience that I would expect, the customers that I would have, right? These were much older. I'm just talking to them. And then when it's slow, you can go outside and just hang out in the front. I had a chair out in the front. I would just sit out there and just look and see it. And we were near the square, and I could see on the far end of the square, there were a lot of people who were just sitting out there. They were just literally sitting out there talking, drinking coffees, because that's what we do on the island,
Yeah,
and talking. And I was like, I wonder if I could do something with them. Don't know what, but they're literally out there just sitting and talking. And there were a couple of small tables there. The squares typically have little areas there where they would play dominoes or cards, but typically it's dominoes. And they would just sit there and talk. The place next to me was empty. And I knew the owner. I'd now been here for a number of years that owned the entire building, the plaza. And I was like, hey, what, you got anything going on next door? And he was like, nope, nobody wants it. Right? There's not a lot of business here. Right? The food places there's a couple of pizza places and little bakeries. There's a lot of bakeries on the island around here, but not a lot really drawing them in. So I was like, can I have it? When we negotiated something, and I did this 6 months because again, I didn't want to get locked into a long-term commitment, but I decided I wanted to try that. And what I ended up doing was I took tables and domino sets, and I made that an extension of the store. But it was there just for people to be there, not to sell them anything. Because my idea was, as long as I'm empty and nobody's here and there's an empty business next to me, nobody's going to just, as they're walking by, they're not going to just walk in. But if there's people around and doing something and coming over here, and then, maybe they'll walk inside because I was like, hey, I can sell pop, right? Soda and Pepsi is big on the island. I'll sell some Pepsi here and it'll be cold. And get some foot traffic and people will see that. My mentality was, hey, it'll look like there's something here for them to come and look at. And so we did that. And people started to hang out there. It's in the shade. You could still look, across the street and at the square and the other businesses. So you can still see, and they're very nosy, see what's going on in the area. But it gave them the opportunity to just kind of be somewhere else in the shade again, and not have to worry about anything and not pay anything. And free is always a very good thing. People love free.
Best price.
So, as I was there, it worked out great. They were coming in. And I was like, I'd get some foot traffic, not a lot. And I started to change the products that we had. So we got rid of minis. Minis were not selling. It just really slowed down. And I started doing well, you know what? I have all these great domino sets and card sets because cards are all different backs. The backs are all different and people love that.
Oh yeah.
Let me see what I can do that's cheap that I can bring in. And so I spoke to the distributor, found some cheaper card games, mini board games, and started bringing them in and saying, you know what, I'm going to open one and we're just going to show people how to play it. Right, demos.
And
now they're all demos.
These are older folks too, and
these are older folks, right? So I had to make sure there were simple games that they would enjoy. And again, they're Spanish, they're older, they don't know English. So there's a lot of translation that has to happen and explaining the rules. And we did that, and it seemed to work, but not as great as I wanted it with them. What it did do was they would tell their families and their children who had younger children. And so we started getting the families to come in. And they'd be like, oh yeah, grandpa told me about it. Right, papa told me. And he's over there playing, right? And the little kids would run over. And I was like, all right, I'm not selling to them, but they're telling their families they're going to be here hanging out, and there's stuff, like kid stuff and cheap stuff that they're buying, and they were buying it. And I was like, I got it. This is going to be fantastic. We're absolutely going to keep doing this. One of the requests that we had a lot of was, hey, do you have any coffee? Right? Coffee is, again, even though it's 100 degrees outside, I want a hot cup of coffee so I
Hot
can
cup of
sit here and
coffee.
milk it for like 3 hours, and it's still
Yep.
going to be as hot as it can be.
That sounds,
Yeah,
that sounds,
hot cup of coffee.
Yep.
Reminds me of my grandmother. My grandmother would every morning when I would go visit her.
Cafe
She would sit
Bustelo,
there.
right?
Yeah, Cafe Bustelo, sit
I
in her
know.
rocking chair, wear her bata on. She had a black cup of coffee and a piece of, it was typically Italian bread
Yep.
with
A
butter on it.
sandwich. Coffee and
She'd
sandwich.
dip it in her
Right?
coffee, man.
Oh, absolutely. You have to dip it in
Oh,
coffee
man.
with the butter. The butter is important. I know
Mhm.
you guys are like, what are you guys talking about? Trust me. It's true. It's true.
It's actually pretty good.
Um,
I've tried it. It's actually
it
pretty
is.
good.
The coffee melts the butter and it's soaked into the bread. So when you bite the bread, it's
Oh,
coffee and bread and butter. It's incredible. It's delicious. And if you're lucky, you get a little piece of like sharp cheddar cheese in there. Oh my God. Just
yeah.
delicious. Anyways, so I was like, I can't do food. I can't. And I'm telling my sister, hey, this is really working. She's like, hey, this is working over here. We're selling out these other products and we're not selling these. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to keep the space next to us. I'm going to sign a long-term lease so that it matches this property. And I'm going to ask if we can knock down the wall between it because it was still a separate building, right? Or not a building, but a separate space. Landlord was like, wait, you want to keep it? I thought you weren't making money because, they're nosy. He would always come by like, hey, how's it going? Yeah, you got like nobody in here, but you got everybody over there and they're not buying from you. Ha, where's my money? And so he agreed. He's like, yeah, you want me to tear down the wall and you're going to sign, a 2-year lease for it? I'm like, yeah, because I got 2 years left on this spot. That way they're both the same. Absolutely. Did that, put up a nice divider in there, made it look good, made it secure. Because crime is a thing, unfortunately, on the island, worse nowadays. But really took a really good approach, and he was really good at working. And so this is where I came up with hey, let's make each location a theme based on who we want. Right? Up to this point, we were just kind of rolling the dice and seeing what happens. Right? Maybe we got lucky, maybe we didn't. Here's something that worked that's very different than location number 2. Incredibly different. Location number 2 is near a mall. A lot of foot traffic, a lot of restaurants. And the restaurants, when people were asking me for food here, again, the coffee, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go over, there's a bakery 2 doors down. I'm going to go talk to them and see if we can like partner up where I can just say, hey, yeah, just go down 2 doors over here. Don't go to that one over there. Go to this one over here.
Yep.
And, at first it was like, yeah, I'll send some customers over to you. And, if I get something, can I get a discount? Literally, it just started with that because I was like, I'm getting my coffee here and I'm getting food here. Maybe I can get some money off and save some money. And from there, it grew into almost, I don't want to say profit sharing, but every time I send somebody over, you're going to give me a little money because I'm sending a lot of foot traffic over to you as opposed to your competition. And by money, I'm talking like literally a quarter per person. So it doesn't cut into their profit margin that much, right? They're not to this day, they're still, right? We still send people, we don't even have to send people. They know, they go over there. It's tied automatically into their point of sale system. And we're making, it's not a lot of money, but you know what? $300 a month is 300 more that I didn't have, and I didn't have to do anything for that.
Yeah. And I mean,
and I'm sending them business, right? That they may not have been getting. It could have been going to their competition on the other side.
Oh yeah.
But they know that they can do it, and they do specials for the shop. So the older people who go there know they can just go over there, get a coffee for like 50 cents and instead of, $1.50. And before you guys joke, coffee cups in Puerto Rico are very small.
Yeah.
Think European coffee cups, right? When you go to Italy, you get a small coffee, not like here in the US where a small coffee is 16 ounces.
Yeah, it's a whole 2 cups of coffee right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Greg knows about that. He loves his coffee. But yeah, I mean, and again, it kind of goes back to I guess what I was alluding to is that community building. And I mean, for the audience, I mean, we've talked about this quite a bit. For us as a company, like we're about building the community. We're about building the not just the brand, not just whatever else we're about making those places for people to gather and talk about stuff, whether it's our stuff, someone else's stuff, just to come together. And it seems like that's kind of was the driving force behind both stores, but definitely the second store, at least from it sounds like to me.
Well, this was the first store. The second store
Oh,
was
this
the
is
one
the
by
first.
the
Okay.
mall that was going
Okay.
for the foot traffic and now kind of a audience in their 20s and 30s that had a
Gotcha.
little more income on it.
Mm-hmm.
This store, again, the first one that we converted, and we started with the comics, then we discovered minis, and then minis died down, and this is where it grew.
Gotcha.
The community is what kicked in, because now
Mm-hmm.
it's to this day it's still a family store.
Mm-hmm.
People come in because grandpa is next door, grandma came by, right, and everybody knows everybody. The employees that work there know people who come in. And we still have a hard rule that we don't sell any product that's over $25 in there. We don't carry anything. The most you will spend is $24.99 plus tax, of course, but that's the most expensive things. 90%, I want to say, of the items are under $20.
That's good.
And that's what
Still
people want.
profitable.
Because, right, and it's profitable because I know, or well, my sister who took over, I sold it over to her last year. She knows what they want,
Mm-hmm.
right? We've done the study. We've learned that it's not a lot of people in that community have a lot of disposable income, and gaming is disposable income. Board games, miniatures, right? That's money
Well,
that
those are luxuries.
I already paid my bills. This is leftover money. This is my fun money.
Mm-hmm.
So having that available for them and staying true to that for them, so that they don't come in and say, "Ooh, wow, this game looks really good. Ooh, it's $50, and my kids already saw it and they're really hyped about it, but it's $50. I can't afford that." They don't have to worry about that. I can order games if they want, and there are people who come in and say, "Hey, I still Warhammer. I need this new set that's coming out." Okay, we'll place an order and it'll come in and whenever it's available the next week. But we stay focused to that theme in there. Second store, the theme there was again a very different crowd. There is no space there. The board games or the tables that are there are board games and role playing games and LARPs. Oh my gosh, LARPs! But that is what their focus is, because that's the audience that was coming in there. Much younger, store number one, more income and more exposure to more openness to try more games. So we have a price point of $60 in there, nothing higher than $60. Used to be $50, but publishers started doing, oh yeah, this book is $59.95, right? Instead of $49.95 because supply chain. Right, got it. Yeah. So but we've stayed focused on that, and it works for that store. The third location, we ended up with a third location, obviously, as I'm saying that. We went into with the idea of what's the theme of the store? Who is the audience?
So you kind of
And this was a no-brainer.
Stores.
What's that?
You kind of learned from those first two stores and kind of just carried that to each one. Learn from your mistakes, people.
This was the easiest choice that we had. The hardest part was finding the location.
Gotcha.
But the theme of it was based on that location. And this was around 40 minutes away from store number 2. So the opposite direction. We were on the southwestern part of the island. So south central, southwest, and then moving up to south or northwest. But there was a military base there.
Yep.
And for me, that was like, guess what? Minis, wartime minis.
Oh yeah,
that Warlord.
That's easy sell.
This is a no-brainer. I'm not doing dominoes. I'm not doing board games. They want war simulation games, right? The board games that I carried were all military themed, right? DVG, Dan Viersen Games, phenomenal board games that are all about the military. A-10 Tank Killer. What a great game, right?
Yep.
You're playing a warthog, right? And it's all cardboard chips that you're playing with. But the focus was that's our audience. That is who we are going after. Because what else are they going to do? They're going to leave the base and they're going to go drink it.
Yeah,
They do. That's, it's okay. It's military. Or they're going to have to drive someplace like the town where the store number 2 is, 40 minutes, 45 minutes away, or go the other direction, an hour and a half away to get to another city to try to find something to do.
Mm-hmm.
Incredibly successful. It was the right call to do until they closed the base.
Yeah.
And then it was like, wow, we just literally lost all of our customers in a few months when the U.S. said, yeah, we're going to close up this base and yeah, good luck, island. I mean, it impacted every single business that was built up around it, not just us. But it was devastating for everybody in that part of the I was going to say the state, but that part of the island. When you lose something like that and you've based so much around it. Right now, it's similar to store number 1, right? A lot of open space. The older people are there. It not a moneymaker. We're not really losing money. We're not hemorrhaging money, but it's not making what it was. The other 2 stores are carrying it. But my sister and I spoke, and when I transferred everything over to her, we agreed we were going to keep it because the community wants it. And closing another store instead of having the grandparents be able to come and play and see their kids coming in, and they do Pokemon now because Pokemon is always popular. And some of the smaller, cheaper games, right? Family night is a big thing. There's some role playing that happens, but having it focused on that and working for them is what, and it's still running. Again, my sister still has it up and going, just not making money, but that's okay because the community is enjoying it and it's helping them. And the other 2 stores are kind of carrying everything. So, we're okay with that.
Yep. So my next big question or series of questions, I guess, because I love batching these. So with all of that in mind and kind of, again, stepping into the industry as a retailer, like what did you learn kind of about the industry and kind of how did that, if it did, change your viewpoint on the industry going from hobbyist to now like a retailer of not 1 but 3 local game stores?
Great question. Wow. Let's see. What did we learn about the industry? Distributors suck.
Nickel and dime.
No, distributors they're at the mercy of publishers. And so a distributor is not very helpful. I'm going to tell you that now. And that sounds bizarre since they're the ones getting you the product. But I'm going to give you a real world example so that you understand that statement.
Yeah.
And I'm going to pick on this little card game that's been around for a while called Magic the Gathering. Probably never heard of it. I know. It's one of those
Yeah,
niche
it's a real
games.
small thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Hardly anybody plays it, right?
Yeah.
No.
So there's
Never
a
heard of it
company
in
who
my life.
owns it that, again, another no-name company owns it called Hasbro.
Oh, yeah, never heard of it.
Never heard of them either.
Yeah. And they're famous for hyping up their sets. And they come up with a set currently every other month, a brand new set of cards that has, I don't know, 160, 210, something like that per set. And it's a collectible game, meaning if you're going to buy into it, you're going to buy into it hard. Like to have a play set, you need 4 of every card. They're randomly set in these boxes. So you might be buying multiple boxes or trading or buying packs. So it's great as a business. That's fantastic. That's a lot of repeat customers, right? You're going to make money. And most distributors, when you buy from them or you buy directly from WotC / Hasbro, your margin, right? You're at a 43%. So you're going to make some money on it, right? That box sells for $120. You're going to make, a good 30 some odd dollars off of that box. Well, 130, 35, 60, 45, $45 to $50 per box you sell. Great money. I probably shouldn't have given away that kind of information to non-retail. Let's cut that from the VOD.
Don't worry, most of us don't even know what that really means.
But so the demand and the hype is massive when a new set is announced and everybody's ready for it. And you take pre-orders as a retailer. I'm going to know per store, these 14 people have come in there, each ordering 2 boxes. So I need 28 boxes plus product on the shelf. So let's say I really need about 50 boxes on it. And I'm going to go to my distributor. I'm going to say, hey, I need 50 boxes of this next set. Okay, great. We'll get you 50 boxes. And they put it in the system and I can see, I log in now and I can see I have 50 boxes pre-ordered. The publisher says, you know what? We're going to give our customers that come direct to us priority, and we're going to short what goes to the distributors. Meaning, if I bought directly up from the publisher, WotC, I would get probably, not guaranteed, but probably close to the number that I pre-ordered. So if I pre-ordered 50, I might get 40 of them. Right? So that's good. They want you to go to them because obviously they make more money by selling direct. If I go to my distributor may only be able to provide me 10 of those 50 because the publisher didn't print enough based on the demand that they knew they had for the product, because all the distributors have to place their pre-orders with the publisher so they can print enough for that. And so they purposely short the print jobs, which then drives the price up on the secondary market for these hot cards that they're on there. They then get to raise their prices of their events that they run and their own booster packs that they have on there and their specialty packs, because guess what? You can't buy that box that you wanted, but hey, we have this, special little box here that should normally cost you about $6. Well, it's $15, but your card is in it. So you're going to buy that, and you're going to buy 4 of them because you need a play set of that. And that, right? It hurts from a distribution side because I have a publisher who's encouraging me to go directly to them and not to my distributor. My distributor's hands are tied, but they can't do anything about it. They still have to take my pre-order. And I'm still telling my 14 customers, yeah, I pre-ordered your product. I hope I get it. And then I end up with 10 boxes for the 28 that I needed to give them. How do I decide who gets those? Who doesn't get them? If they prepaid for it, typically on pre-orders, you put 50% down. I have to refund money or give store credit if I do store credit. Right? It's a lose situation for everyone except for the publisher. And I'm picking on them, but other publishers do the same thing. Games Workshop, we've talked about them. They're famous for that. If you didn't get this product on release weekend and you didn't pre-order it, too bad. We're never going to print it again. You're never going to get it.
Yeah, they kind of employ that FOMO, fear of missing out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Play those games.
Well, it's a very commonly used marketing tool, and it's that's not just the games and publishing industry. To give you an example, Microsoft, Sony, they employ this always with new product, always, because what they'll do is they'll restrict the production capacity, like on a new game machine. They'll restrict the production capacity to only a certain amount. And obviously, the quote unquote more important customers get priority. So your big chains, your Walmarts, your Best Buys, stuff like that are going to get first priority. They're probably going to get the bulk of that production run. And then your little guys get what's left. And the reason they do it is so that because you're recouping your go-to-market investment, basically. So they want to keep the price high, which in turn keeps the value of the machine high because the supply is very low and demand is very high. And then as the demand begins to come down, then they'll bring the price down.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, think of, to Greg's point, the PlayStation 5.
Oh
It
God.
just moved.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, PlayStation 5 was like, I mean, it took. Oh,
You're good. We can hear you. I just got to pull you guys back in.
Okay.
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 All right, cool. But yeah, the PlayStation 5. I mean, I'm pretty sure people were trying to sell their grandmothers to get that thing.
Yeah.
Like, and people had that whole system botted up anyway. Because like I remember one of my roommates, he tried to get it, and like he would literally have to have a tab open and kind of keep refreshing it at every hour because as soon as it went, as soon as it came in stock, literally 5 seconds later, they were already out.
Oh yeah, because people had a bunch of bots ready to just mass purchase the PlayStation
Yes.
5s, and then they just go on like eBay or whatever
Sell
other
for
site.
$1,000.
Yeah, then
And they sold
the
them.
scalping issue, and it was
Yeah.
bad. It was real bad. Like honestly, I would have a PlayStation 5 by now if it wasn't for that stuff. But like, I think it's calmed down a bit since then, but I think it's still hard to find one for a decent price.
Well,
Yeah.
you at this point, you can get it at market price. I mean, it's still, you can't just walk into a Best Buy and they have it there. They may, because there's more availability and less demand for it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there's
only
still
took, like,
shortages on it.
Years.
Another example, which all of us know about, that impacted every single person is when COVID started, right?
Yeah.
Toilet paper,
Yeah.
alcohol, right?
Yeah.
Or disinfectant, or right, everything that we were told we needed, masks, gloves, right, skyrocketed.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh
Here
yeah.
in the U.S., there was a story of, I think there was either one guy or a guy and his brother who stockpiled hand sanitizing lotion.
Oh yeah.
Like
Yeah.
bought cases.
Yeah.
Remember this? This was like in
Yeah.
Tennessee or
Yeah.
someplace
Tennessee.
around
Yeah.
I think
there.
I had heard
I
about
think it was,
this one.
I think it was Tennessee or Kentucky, one of the two. But yeah,
Yeah.
they bought. It was a couple of cases. There was one that was yes, like hand sanitizer, and there was another one that was toilet paper. And they it was through Amazon. They bought tons and tons and tons. Like literally, I think they had like a truck full, and I'm talking about like a box truck full of this stuff, and they were selling it to everybody at like just ridiculous.
It was
price.
300 to 400% markup.
Yeah.
That's what they were selling it. They bought it at $15. They were selling it at $75. And
Yep.
people were buying it because you couldn't find it. You couldn't get it anywhere else. And you're being told you have to have it. Right. So a lot of that, right. Those are perfect examples of that. You produce little product. The demand is going to go through the roof. You're going to make more money. You're going to keep that demand going because people want it. Right. So instead of, hey, we know we're going to sell 3 million PS5s. Let's start a production now and let's have 3 million at launch, and then sales slump because everybody got it. Guess what? If we say instead of 3 million, let's only put 100,000 out, and then next month another 100,000, and next month, right? Now you're looking multiple years, and that demand, everybody's like, I still need it. I still need it. I still got to get one.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, it's still short. It must still be in hot demand.
Grim Wolfen just hit on something that that's from my retail days. That was always an issue, like especially when the new game machines would release. And I sometimes people get mad about it because they want to go and get their PS5 or whatever, and they see there's two there, so they want to buy two of them, get theirs, and then get one for their buddy, but the retailer won't do that, won't sell it to them. And the reason why is because of the resale market. That's really what it comes down to is, if you so many of these people are rushing out to get those early release games. So they want to get them, they want to get there and get the machine solely for the purpose of turning around and putting it on a platform like eBay. So they're going to buy it for $500 and then they're going to put it up there for 800 or 900 or more. And because you really want this machine, and if you've got the money to spend on it, you really want the machine, you get to the store, they don't have any, you go back in a week, they don't have any, screw it, I'll just buy it off of eBay for $1,000.
Yeah, at a certain point, you're like, you know what? I'll spend the extra money just to get it.
Yep.
And that's the psyops, the freaking psyops these companies be doing, boy.
Yeah.
Not even.
And you'll notice they release near the holidays
Oh, yeah,
because
it's always.
Oh yeah.
you get the pressure
Christmas
of
money.
the kids want it.
Yeah, you get
Right?
your
So
Christmas
you
money,
release
get your
August and September.
bonuses.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, most of the time, it's towards the end of the year. Companies, if they give out bonuses, they're giving out, the Christmas bonus stuff, and it's
Yeah. I mean, like,
when you look at it, it looks kind of scummy, but I mean, from a business perspective, like I get it, but then it's like, why do I feel so dirty?
Yeah, I mean, like, why do you think like Pokemon Violet and Scarlet came out when it did? Because they wanted that Christmas money, but like, look how it was at launch. That game wasn't ready. It just wasn't. But they wanted out for the holidays,
Little Bobby
Pokemon
needed
is
new
huge.
shoes, man. What are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, like, it's extremely popular with children, so they wanted that Christmas money. So push it out. And
I'm going to go back
happened.
to Rob's comments from, I think, 2 episodes again, when we were talking about your example, Pokemon coming out not ready. Everything from EA that comes out.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Right, it's not ready. There's a day one 25 gig patch waiting the moment you try to install that game. You put the disc in there, you're not going to wait for it to download and update.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of times also, and I've noticed this. I've heard others talk about that, where the discs that you get from a lot of like modern games these days, the game isn't even it's not even on the disc. All it does, all loading up that disc does, is just load up a prompt to download the game.
Yeah. Well, but there's a reason for that. And there is a reason from that from a publishing side. So I'm going to move away from the retailer and talk as a publisher.
Yeah,
if you are still producing physical media, it takes time to actually have that manufacturing process, right? For them to press the discs, to put the label on it, the colors, the packaging, put that all together, ship it over from whatever country, China, back to the country where you're trying to sell it, get it from the docks, and this is all supply chain, get it from the docks into your warehouse to get it to your distribution centers to get the product out to these stores. That's a very long lead time.
Sounds like
and by long, I'm talking 6-9 months worth of time to get that. So your game is not ready. You're still in development, but because you've made a commitment to do physical media, you're going to go and put a loader in there that as soon as they put it in, you're right, it's going to go to the webpage, right? There's going to be an API behind the scenes. It's going to make a call and start downloading whatever the final product is when they put it in place. And it's because of that lead time that's there. Now, you'll see a lot of publishers don't do that. They don't do physical media anymore because of that. So what just came out? Starfield. Or I'm sorry, let's go out. Baldur's Gate. Baldur's Gate came out a couple of weeks ago. And it's all digital, right? I think maybe on the Switch they might have a physical, maybe. But other than a collector's edition, everything is digital. And everybody downloaded it. Because guess what? They can keep working up until the day that it gets released. They can still be working on that. And then at 10 a.m., it goes live. All right. We don't have to do it. There's no more manufacturing. Lowers their cost, right? They don't have to pay to get discs and pamphlets and cases and packaging. And transport. They don't have to pay any of that.
That's actually pretty smart.
Yeah, like I definitely get that, like from the production standpoint, that digital media is just it's just plain better because of all of the added costs and processes of what you just mentioned. But like sometimes, like from a consumer standpoint, it's like there's something to be said. It's like because obviously our devices, whether it's your console or your PC, only has limited storage. Like that you can only have so many games downloaded onto the thing. And like eventually, like say you had like a PS3, but eventually, as we're getting like PS5, Sony's gonna shut down those servers. So you can't so whatever you have downloaded onto that console, that's all you got. You could have bought other games, but you won't be able to download them anymore. So like that physical disc is something that like the only way a lot of people would be able to circumvent that because it's not stored on a console, it's in the disc, but then it's not really on the disc. And again, like because of all the points you just put out, it's understandable why it is the way it is. It's just like an unfortunate consequence of the modern day and how things are done now.
Yeah, the digitization of
Right.
a lot of our media. And with that in mind, though, Garrus, my next question for you, I mean, and for everybody here, what challenges have you seen kind of within the industry, going back to your early days as a local game store owner up until now? I mean, now you're, like you said, you've kind of held different positions, in the industry, in multiple industries, but definitely in the gaming industry. Like, what problems do you see, and do you think there's a way to fix them? Like,
So,
give me your top three. Your top three.
oh, my top three.
There's a number of problems in
Give
the
us
game
some hot
industry.
takes.
Yeah,
Okay.
give us some.
Hot takes.
Yeah.
So the increased cost of goods, and this is directly related to supply chain and to COVID as it's happened, plus the impact that it's had on global economies and manufacturing. What you were able to get for $30, $40 for a game or a book, the cost has now gone up 50, 75% on that for the exact same product. You look at games, and I'm not going to say names. So a board game that you used to buy for $49.95, and it's one of the best games that's out there. Right now, it's going for $59.95, exact same game. And it all happened about a year after the shutdowns globally happened. And the product is not always available. Not that they're shorting manufacturing, but just the lead time from when they do another run to when they're able to push it down to the distributors to get to the market. And that means you're spending more of your money for something that cost you less just 2 years ago for the exact same thing. And you're buying it because I gave this copy to a friend or a loved one because they really enjoyed it. I'm just getting another copy for me. Or it's a gift for them and I'm keeping my copy. That is something that as a retailer, it hurts because I can't say, yeah, I know you bought it, 2 years ago and it was $10 or $15 cheaper, but that's how much it costs now. Go blame, somebody else, not me.
Yeah.
That's number one. And that ties into number two, which is online retailers.
Okay.
As a retailer, my competition is not the person who opened a store 2 miles down the road from me or 30 miles away from me. They're not my competition. My competition is that online store that has a name synonymous with a rainforest out in Central America. Or
We all
someone
know
like
the
Sam
one.
Walton created, right? Or has a giant bullseye as its logo. That is my competition because they're able to go and sell it at such a highly discounted price. They're making it up in quantity. And frankly, they're making it up in other products that they have because it's very unlikely that I'm going to go and have an account with them and have set it up where that's the only thing I'm going to buy. They know I'm going to buy other goods from them. So as a retailer who focuses on board games, that is your bread and butter, right? Every game that goes out is helping pay for it. You look at one of those larger ones, well, board games are just one other product, right? They're selling air cleaners and toothbrushes and groceries now and medicine, prescription medicine, right? They have dog food and like all these other
Everything you need.
goods that they have,
Mhm.
right? And then better yet, they don't even have to sell and carry it because they can let people go and sell it direct themselves anyways. So
Yeah, sells
I'm
for 'em, yeah.
competing against a marketplace that's out there that is already discounted. And I'll pick on, frankly, Wizards of the Coast. Their books,
We do
right?
that a
No,
lot.
and I'm picking on them.
We do that a lot, yeah.
They're a publisher, so I'm not picking on them in a bad way this time. But right, their books. If you're going to play D&D as a player, you need a player handbook. You don't need a DM's guide. You don't need a monster manual. I mean, they're good to have, but you don't need them. You want the player's handbook. Player's handbook costs what, $59.95?
I think right now,
Way
yeah.
too much, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, right now
way
it's
too much.
pretty sure it's like 60 bucks plus tax.
Yeah, it's $59.95.
Yeah.
I bet I can go on Amazon and it's going for like 35 or 40 bucks. Forget
Actually, yeah,
eBay.
I think that's the exact price. Yeah, around there.
I don't even need to go to eBay to get a discount because it used to be I would go to eBay, find somebody who has a used copy and, get it really cheap. There are things that is cheaper on Amazon
Oh yeah.
that I can get. So my competition as a retailer is them. And I can't do anything about it. A lot of people will say, well, it's the add-on service because they're coming to your FLGS, Friendly Local Gaming Store, FLGS. They're going to go there and, they're going to buy other stuff. If somebody's coming looking for a player's handbook, they're there to buy a player's handbook. Maybe they'll buy dice, but they probably already have dice. They're there for that one book.
Hardcover copy, Player's Handbook, Dungeons and Dragons, hardcover, Amazon Prime, $26.10 if I can have it by Friday.
I have
You
my
could have
Friday.
Wow.
God damn.
So why would you go to my store and pay more than double that?
Yeah.
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 Like
That's like
I gotta get up. I gotta put pants on. I gotta go out there. Nah.
yeah, and that's
Guess what? I'm on my phone, on my computer. Heck,
Yeah.
I can just talk to Alexa and tell her to put it on the cart and it'll be ordered. I don't even need to get on a computer
You just
or
gotta
device.
talk.
I just gotta talk and say, Alexa, add
Oh.
D&D Player's Handbook to it. I'm sorry if anybody has Alexa and just heard that. You want to cancel it.
Oh my God.
yeah.
But seriously, it's that competition.
It's
Yeah.
very disappointing, to be quite honest with you. It's very disappointing.
Yeah,
It is.
it's like
It's good.
from-
It's good for the it's good for the customer. Absolutely good for the customer, and I'm all about that. But understanding what it takes when it comes to a small business, and that's the key piece here, is understanding what it takes. Because as a small business owner, if you just have a small shop and your focus is games and comic books and minis, and I mean, it takes a lot to cover that overhead. That's the thing right there. You have to sell a lot of product before you even. It doesn't matter what that margin number is what I'm getting at. It doesn't matter what that margin number is. The first large chunk of your sales is just going to go to cover your costs. And that's all of your costs. That's your insurance, which you got to have insurance, mandatory, especially if you have a physical location. You got to have the physical location, whatever that costs, whether you own the location, whether you rent the location, whatever it happens to be. You got all the basic things that all of us have. You got power, you got heat, you got all that stuff. Then you have employees on top of that you're probably going to have some people working for you so you can keep the place going. Then you got to foot the bill for the product itself. And on top of that, you're going to eat any of the shrink. So shrink meaning, and that's theft and damage.
Oh yeah.
That's that's all coming out of your pocket. And then after you pay all those bills, plus your licensing, plus your taxes, then you got to figure out how you can pay yourself after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, now
it-
I finally get to take something.
Yeah, but like,
And
right.
and
Jesus.
I actually want to push back against one thing you said, Greg.
Hmm.
And only like halfway, honestly, because you're talking about like how like the say getting something from Amazon is just better for the consumer. On a standpoint of wallet and convenience, you are true, but there is something that online storefronts do not offer that a actual like game shop like what Garrus has does.
Hands
That
on.
is a place to gather, a community, because
Yeah.
that's
I,
the
I was
biggest thing,
hoping.
and that is the biggest thing that would be such a shame to lose
Yeah.
if more of these places
Well,
have to shut down the community.
yeah. Well,
So
here's the thing, though.
let me argue with you on that
Okay.
because I'm going to give
Okay.
I'm going to give you real world, and this hurts. I'm telling you right now from right here in the heart. This hurts. You say community, and I've talked about each store is based around the community that we have there. Here in the US, and I'm talking specific in the US, that community, if, and I have a friend back in Ohio who has had a game store, an FLGS, for over 20 years. And he knows the industry in and out. If he were to close down now, his community would be like, oh, that's a shame. Hey, let's go to Denny's and play. And they're going to
Yeah.
take their friends over to Denny's and play. They do that right now. Board games, go to like Meetup. They don't go to
Yeah.
FLGSs. They go and they play with groups of 30, 40, 50 people at a Denny's, at a Perkins, at a place where, hey,
In
I
New
can get
York,
food here pretty
it's
cheap. I could sit
WeWorks.
here,
Yep.
right? Panera is fantastic at that. Or go the cheap way. I'm going to go to my local library and I'm going to set up a board game night once a month. And I'm just going to have my friends all go there. And we're all just going to go to the library completely free, air conditioned, free electricity. And they're going to give us a room and take care of us and treat us like the best thing in the whole world. And we get to play games for like 7 hours a day for free.
Yep.
Churches. Hey, I belong to this church. Can we use your hall like Thursday nights? We'll make sure that we clean up, and we just want to bring in people. We're going to play board games. Absolutely, you're going to bring people here to the church. Hey, maybe they're going to stay here,
Yep.
and right,
They start coming on
it's
Sundays.
right, and it's all about the convenience. It's not about the I'm going to go to my FLGS and support them because
Yeah.
it doesn't. FLGS is right now Magic the Gathering, EDH.
Yeah.
That's it.
Unfortunately,
I'm being completely blunt. You're going to play Warhammer. Chances are you're going to go to either a store that is specialized in the Warhammer games, or you're going to go to a GW store and play that.
Mhm.
Pokemon, you're playing with your friends, right? You'll go to a store, but if the store is not there, you're going to find some other place to do it. You're not buying anything, but you're using up the electricity. You're taking up the space. Yu-Gi-Oh players, there's one thing you wanted me to talk about. Yu-Gi-Oh players, they're just horrible. They're going to come in with their backpacks. They're going to try to trade, take advantage of new players that are coming in here, and just stay there, taking up
He's
all the
not wrong.
space.
He's really not wrong.
I mean, back when I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh, I know the feeling.
He's
Yeah,
really not wrong.
and it's
But
still there.
also, yeah. Also, one of the big things about the whole community aspect, and again, your FLGSs are getting replaced in that particular capacity, but also, I mean, look at all the virtual. Again, it kind of circles back to kind of COVID, but even before then, I think COVID, and maybe not even necessarily COVID specifically. I mean, that was the reason why, but it was the catalyst for a lot of these companies, D&D Beyond, Rolls 20, Foundry, all of these kind of tabletop replacements just grew in popularity. And it kind of circles back to the whole thing we were talking about with Amazon and the fact that you can get a hardcover book delivered Friday for less than half the price of what it costs now. It's the convenience. It's the easy. It's easy. It's like I don't gotta put on no pants. I'll play Dungeons and Dragons right here in front of my computer or on my iPad or whatever. Or hell, even off of a phone.
Are you calling me
Like,
out?
maybe a little bit. Like honestly, and I mean, maybe if anybody at Roll20 hears this, but I'm gonna call it now. The second that Roll20 really gets their mobile application squared away, and you can do everything that you can do on a computer screen, or almost everything on your phone. Most people just do it from their beds. Won't even leave their bed, just be playing D&D. It's honestly it's a convenience thing, and it's a good and a bad thing. Like it's a definitely a double-edged sword because you have the ability now to play those games that we all love and enjoy, but and I guess for me, the thing that I kind of keep thinking about is the community that you're building authentic? Does it have the same impact of when you're actually sitting around a table with 4 or 5 other or more people in person and enjoying it, or at your local game store, or at whatever gathering space you have. And I mean, and you can make an argument either way. Like you can make an argument, yeah, it's still as impactful. I have friends that I've known for years. All we did was play like video games, like MMOs or whatever, um, or not. You can be like, no, it's really not as kind of impactful. But yeah, I mean, I want to hear what you guys have to say on that one.
Yep.
Audience included.
Well, so I want to talk about what TCAT brought up in chat because I
Let's see
think
what
that's
we
really
got.
important. But I want to address your comment quick because
Oh yes, I didn't
you're
know
saying
that.
Roll20.
Yeah, like
But-
Roll20.
Yeah, but here's guess what? That's here already.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So here, this is D&D Beyond,
Yeah.
and this has my character here. And most of you know, I just moved recently. I did not have a camera, did not have a microphone, but I had my phone, and I was still able to play D&D using their app because I have Discord on here, so I have voice chat. I can see the screen. You can already roll everything from your character sheet using your mobile device. It's already
that's
here.
an important question. So I'm gonna actually ask the question, Garrus. Did you play D&D Beyond? Did you play D&D?
I did
from your
not play it from my bed. I'm sorry, T-Cat. I was sitting right here as I was looking at my phone, literally like this, like, oh. And if you remember, I was like, hold on a second. I need to find where this is on here, right? To roll the dice.
I feel like a lot of people would have a problem
will-
falling asleep between their turns if playing D&D for their bed.
Well, I will say this. We don't use D&D Beyond. We primarily right now we use Roll20 as our background platform. But while I was down for Gen Con, I absolutely the 2 sessions that we did and the social that we did on Discord, I absolutely did those from the hotel room bed.
He was like, I was chilling.
And I mean, Pathfinder has another. They have their app that does the exact same things.
I didn't know Pathfinder had one.
Yep, they even have one called Game Master, I guess it is, where you all right, it's not theirs, it's a third party that does it, but you could run your campaign right off of it. Man, I didn't realize that.
Man.
I'm looking at it now, like it's got more features than I thought it did. But you have companies who are incorporating that, and I know 3 episodes ago we were talking about, or you were talking about. Wizards and where they were going to go with their new version of, D&D Beyond. It's already here. It really is.
It's disappointing, and I think I kind of I mean, it's not disappointing because again, it's from one perspective, it's technological progress. It's innovation, but I mean, there really is nothing like sitting around a table with a bunch of friends, playing a game, rolling some like physical dice. Especially, I had some of the benefits of I had a lot of guys like you and Greg who played D&D when it first came out, who really got into it, and they had all the foam terrain models. A lot of them had all the minis painted up, so like we got to see all of these things, and obviously before all the roll 20s and all that jazz. So there's nothing that compares to that, in my opinion. There's nothing
Yeah.
that compares to that.
No, I mean,
You're right.
there's something to be said
And
about that, but I'm going to talk like from my own experience real quick because I have actually never had the pleasure of playing an in-person game of D&D. I've never had a community that I could go to locally to do this stuff with. Like, I would never have known any of you guys if it weren't for online communities. We wouldn't
True.
be able to do our like
Yep.
weekly cyberpunk game if not for a online resource such as Roll20. So like there's definitely a lot of good that has come from this the online resources that we have now, because it's created a lot of more connectiveness that otherwise never would have happened. But for also some of the reasons you guys have said, that like again, it's like most things, there are pros and cons to it.
Yeah.
there are.
Yeah,
And Matt, you bring up a great example. And it's unfortunate, but it's true. And it goes to what Rob was saying. There are people who won't know the enjoyment of D&D is tonight. I got to leave because I got to get over to the store. And the five of us are going to sit around this mat with little minis on it. And we're literally just sitting across the table rolling dice and just having fun. It's turned into the virtual version, right? We're now all looking at our monitors and we have the map on there. We're still rolling dice virtually, though you can do it for real, but that camaraderie, that friendship, the teasing, I'm throwing popcorn at the guy across me because he rolled a 1, and shot me in the back. All right, it's that's gone.
Well, no,
Which
well,
is
wait, it's not completely gone. That's the thing. It's not completely gone.
well, the new generation, it is gone.
Yeah,
So
I
people
see
who
what you're
have
saying.
done it,
Yeah.
right? So you look at Twitch. I'm going to
The
pick on
teasing
Twitch.
is still
If you look at
there.
the D&D
Oh yeah,
character,
we give each other shit all the time.
yeah, I mean,
I
it's
never
Twitch.
Just
tease
can't
They
throw
anybody.
deserve
popcorn
it.
at each other.
I mean, I was talking about Amazon. Might as well talk about. Well, let's keep going. It's Twitch now. But if you look at the audience, look at the people who are playing, the percentage of people who are actually sitting at tables, like everybody together in the same area, in the same room, very, very little. The VTTs that are out there, majority of them are all using a virtual tabletop, which is why we have Roll20, Foundry. Right there's a new one, Alchemy, is about to come out. There are, all of these VTTs that are out there, because let's just make people sit in front of the computer. And I'm not going to go into the, we used to call the television the boob tube, right? It's going to make you an idiot because you're in there.
I am absolutely not attempting to disagree with that, because what you're saying is the truth. But there are still game shops out there that have a a healthy, vibrant community, and I have one just south of me down in it's an hour away from me, but down in La Crosse, Wisconsin, where I know some of the GMs that run down there personally. They're really good people. And they run some fantastic games, and it's a nice little shop. I would encourage everybody to go and get that experience, because it is a completely different experience from the VTT experience. And I'm not knocking the VTT experience, because, just to be quite transparent with it, I mean, we're building our company through VTT. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Our products, right now, our marketing strategy includes things like drive-through RPG, Roll20. I mean, that's all there. In part because we have to reach the audience, because that's where the audience is at now, the majority of that audience. But it doesn't mean that, the intention is not to work with these small stores that are out there. Ideally, we'll be able to find some form of private publishing that will be able to work with them more directly, and not have it be, that type of relationship where we're sucking up all the margin and, hey, you guys just sell it for, either we're going to control the pricing on it and say this is what you make on our product, or we're going to let them determine what the market value is on it. I don't know where that situation's going to land at. Physical print's a little different situation than what we've dealt with up until now. But yeah, sorry guys, I just wanted to make that point, that there are places out there, and I think it's important that we do what we can as people that are in the industry, people like Garrus and I who've been engaged in the RPG storytelling, for a very long time, to support those things that are available. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I agree. It's and some good comments were dropped in the chat. TCAT being one of them, and Simon Knight being another. Let's kind of scroll back a little bit here, and Insomnia Knight brings up a good point where it kind of mirrors what a lot of us have been saying. Most new D&D players, they've never played D&D in person, and for the most part, I'm going to agree with you, Insomnia Knight. They probably never will. For multiple reasons, some personal and some just logistical. And it's sad that they won't, or that the potential for them not to is there, rather, I should say. But I'm also at the same time glad that they're still playing via, the things like Roll20 and Alchemy and Foundry, and all those aspects. Because again, because there is community on both sides. I think it's a shift. It's a shift in what the community, the gaming community, the TTRPG community is starting to look like. It's more virtual, and that's okay. It's just I for one don't want the local game stores to die out. I for one don't want them to stop having game nights. I want there to be a bunch of tables, folks playing, throwing dice, and having those epic moments that they can share in person. Together.
Are you talking Yu-Gi-Oh again? You are, aren't you?
No, God.
I was going to say that's my retirement plan, man, to have my own little game store and sit at the tables playing games all day. I mean, come on.
And so I will add on, as an FLGS or former FLGS owner, and FLGS owners that are out there right now will tell you the same thing. It's great to have, butts in the chair, butts in the seat to play it, but it's about building that camaraderie up. And honestly, we're still a business making money off of that. So knowing what your customers want and having that product. D&D is not the only RPG that's out there.
No,
it's not.
Oh,
we know
by
that.
no means.
Pathfinder is growing. It's the largest one, right? It's based on the numbers.
Well-known one.
Yeah, everybody. Well, people know Dungeons and Dragons. They may know Pathfinder. They probably don't know anything from any of the other publishers that are out there. And if you say something like Aliens, as a great example, they're like, "Oh, you mean the movie?"
Yeah.
Well, yes, but there's also, right, and
Yeah.
Star Trek. Oh, yeah, the shows. No, there's a role playing, right? Tales from the Loop, never heard of it. The One Ring, oh, Lord of the Ring, right? So
Yep.
they associated with that and not so much that, but having them, being able to introduce them to these systems are ways of maybe getting them to keep coming back and trying something new. Maybe they'll buy something from you, one of the books that comes with it. Maybe not, but not just saying, hey, it's D&D night, everybody's coming in, $5 a head. I made, this one table has 7 people or 6 players plus a DM. Then you don't charge the DM because they're bringing the people in. So I only made, $30 on it, and I have 5 tables, so I made $150. But guess what? Air conditioning, heating, electricity, myself, my time in there, and I just lost all these tables because they're being used for D&D. So people can't come in and try a different game, do a demo of any of the board games, or do any other events on there. So there's pros and cons that as a store owner you have to look at. A lot of stores have gone this sounds really bad and I'm using the wrong word for it, but they've gone down the road of, hey, I'm going to do board games and beer, or board games and food. It's a restaurant, or something that goes with it.
Free beer
right,
tomorrow.
To try to. What's that?
Free beer tomorrow.
I mean, I know
I'd go.
There is a place that I know that they're a bar that has board games, and they sell board games, and you play board games as long as you're drinking and eating. You can play board games at their tables. And they have ties to the local board game community. So they have board game night every Wednesday night, and they're packed. They have over 80 people who show up there, and they're drinking beer and buying finger foods and playing board games. Right? You tie 2 things together like that. Because
that makes sense, because honestly, they're like, because both playing the board game and eating, like, people love to do both of those things just socially. And obviously when you're playing a session of something like, say, D&D, that goes on for quite a few hours, and people, I mean, whenever you hear about people playing like D&D, there's always the snack bringer, the god amongst men. So people like to eat while they're at these gatherings, so it makes sense, honestly.
The average D&D session will be like 3 or 4 hours.
That is both a pro and a con for VTTs, by the way, because for one thing, it's a lot cheaper to use a VTT because you don't have to be the snack burger.
Yep.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, no one has to be the glorious snack bringer, but at the same time, no one gets to be that most loved person at the table for being the snack bringer.
True.
Get on the DM's good side.
You don't get snacks,
You don't get snacks. Come on.
It's like I rolled a nat 1, but look at the DM. I did bring those Doritos. Damn it! All right, you succeed.
we know what kind of player Matt is.
when you're building the party, the question that you're really asking the other players are, hey, does anyone's wife know how to bake? Great, yours does, or your husband does? Yeah, we're going to do snack night, and they're playing because on their night they're bringing in baked goods.
See, that's actually how
Little Debbie's.
That's actually how I got introduced to D&D. My very first experience with D&D was when I was very, very young. But my nieces, my aunts and uncles, at my aunt's house. It was her kids. And they were all early 20s, but we would get together, go over there with my parents and with my sister and her husband, and they would get together and play D&D. And I was too young. I was like, this is like 1980, 1981. They wouldn't let me play, but I got to I just had to do that. Sorry, buddy. But that was my first experience is watching them play and listening to the stories, listening to them play their characters and getting into this game and then rolling the dice and the food. So that's the only thing I got to partake of was the food, because they wouldn't let me play. So.
But you got to hear some good stories.
I did.
Yeah, food is so important, and that's why you heard me when I was talking about the stores, right? Having that partnership with restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
I could do it with other places, but everybody needs food. Everybody wants food. Right? We need it. We all need food to survive.
Yeah.
And we need coffee to survive. So
yes,
why not have that partnership? Right? I think we all agree on that. Why not have that partnership that says, hey, I'll send somebody to you and, you throw something back at me.
Yeah.
Win-win on every side. And
he doesn't like
the customer
coffee.
is happy.
Yeah. Did you hear that, T-Cat? Coffee.
Yeah. I mean, look,
I
don't
like
drink coffee, and look at me. I look like a corpse most of the time. So,
You're a project manager, so that's kind of normal, right?
I like coffee and tea. I'm a both kind of guy. But kind of with that said, I want to kind of shift gears a little bit and turn it over kind of to the audience. To ask syrups with a hint of coffee. A liquid hard starter. Yeah, that is true. My blood is coffee, tea, and energy drinks. Yeah. But yeah, I want to turn it over to the audience and again to Matt and Greg as well. Kind of a Q&A session to see, what questions you guys have for Garrus. Anything that we didn't cover, feel free to kind of drop it in the chat, ask him now. And let's further this conversation. So please, guys, if you have any questions, drop it in the chat. But with that said, Matt, Greg, you guys have any other questions for Garrus that we can kind of cover?
Go ahead, Matt.
Go ahead, Greg.
No, you go ahead.
Okay, I was about to say, because I could swear I had something on the top of my, right on the tip of my tongue, like 10, 15 minutes ago, but I can't for the life of me remember what it was. But
all that, and now you don't have a question. What?
Why do you think I said, "Hey, you go first"?
Wow.
But it's and I will. So I've said something of weight here at least. It's been very interesting, kind of hearing what you've had to say, Garrus, because obviously we've all been on the consumer side. And myself, Greg, Rob, we've been kind of going into the design and development side, and so what you do is what comes between those two different sides. If someone makes a game, someone's got to get the game to people for the consumers. So you're exactly this missing step that we haven't really had our own insight on. So this has been, honestly, it's been very interesting to kind of see what that looks like.
Well, I'm glad I was able to give you some insight as to the nightmare that is being a store retailer. It's actually not that bad. It's a lot of work. I mean, it really is. It's not as simple as, hey, a product comes in, I put it on a shelf, and somebody buys it. There's a lot of paperwork that you have to keep track of, and a lot of busy work, a lot of research that goes into it. Right? What products do you carry? There are so many games that are out there, so many modules from even TTRPGs that are available every week. When you get the sell sheet from your distributor, you're like, here's another 20 different things. What do I carry? What don't I carry? Do I know the publisher? Has anyone asked about them? What system is it for? Do I bring in one of these? Oh, there's a bundle that I can get it at a even more discounted rate. Do I take the chance on that? It's a lot of work, but once you find yourself at some point, you'll be like, I'm really tired. Why? You know what? This just isn't working, or I'm not making what I expected, or I'm not having fun. And fun isn't usually part of it, but for some people, it is. And that's where hopefully when you decided to get into it, you did it knowing, who you're doing it for, right? That community aspect, I'm going to go back to that, because they're the ones that are going to keep driving you for it. If it wasn't for things in my life, I would still have the stores, and my sister would still be managing it when I'm not there on site. But you get tired of flying once a month, and then driving 2 hours to get to the store, and then being there for 3 or 4 days and flying back and going straight to work. Your body gets tired when you're almost 60.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm like on the cusp of turning 30, so I got some youth in me still, and that sounds tiring to me. So yeah,
It is.
it's definitely a lot. You definitely put in a lot of work and to get where you are today.
But I do not regret it. I think the enjoyment that I've brought to people is something that I would not give up. I've been to people in store number one. Again, older audience. People have passed, and families have come and told me about it. I've gone to funerals of people who never bought a single thing for me, but they sat over there and they played dominoes, and I would sit there and I would joke with them, and talk, and hear them complain about everything, and yet they felt like family, and their family came to me because I became part of their family. They would come in, their kids knew me, I knew their kids, they would buy stuff. Sometimes they didn't have money, and I'd be like, that's fine, go. And the parent would come in later, and it's just having that. It's again the community thing. I can't emphasize that enough, how important it is. Here's an example that I think it's I can talk about it, and this is not. I'm not giving this example as, oh, look what I did, but as to how important that community is, and why a person who's looking to open a store should focus on that before they actually open the store. Hurricane Maria just absolutely destroyed the island a number of years back. Incredible hurricanes that came through, and the damage to even my locations, along with everything else on the island, was devastating. Roofs were completely blown off of majority of the houses, and my businesses also. Water damage for the items that we hadn't been able to remove, hoping that it was going to be okay. Damaged furniture, destroyed furniture, walls knocked down, just everything that you would expect from a strong hurricane kick in. We had product that, we were without power in all 3 locations for over 2 months. And we had product that I had in storage. In all the locations, we gave away most of it. Just flat out said, you know what? We're not going to sell it. We're not going to be able to open up for a number of months. We got to rebuild everything. I want to give it away. And so I told my sister, told the manager of the store number 3, like, just go to the schools, go find whoever you can that is there, the mayor, if they're around, and find out what they're doing, where they're doing food distribution. Take everything and give it away. Don't care. If they want it, they can have it. Because it's that community aspect. It meant more for those people to get that, right? Even if it takes their mind off of the destruction for an hour, and that's it. It was worth it because it gives them something. They didn't know who the businesses are. I did not tell them put up signs so they know that, hey, we're the ones giving it away. It was literally, oh, you're getting food. Hey, do you want some free games? Need a set of dominoes? Need some cards? Need some board games? And we gave. I mean, I lost obviously thousands of dollars, but it's okay. Didn't matter because the community was able to respect it and get something out of it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's at the heart of why myself, Greg, and Matt kind of are doing what we're doing. That's at the heart of it. Like we want to build a.
You're giving back, right?
We're trying to.
You're
Trying our
doing
best.
your part
Yeah.
to give back to a community, right? It might not be the people that live around you, but there is a community out there still, whether they're, virtual, VTTs, and that's what they play. There's still a community. People who play D&D are still a community, whether they're in person or not.
Yeah, I mean, we're building that community around something hopefully fun and engaging and positive. Is kind of what we're aiming for. But yeah, I think it kind of circles back to folks having fun. I mean, the world's hard enough as it is, and I don't want to philosophize or get on my soapbox, but the world's hard enough as it is. I mean, I think everyone owes it to themselves and to folks that they care about to make it a little bit happier, just a little bit, before they go.
Yeah. That is one of the big reasons why I decided I wanted to make games, because I want to have some impact on people's lives, and then of course there's a million ways to do that, but when but growing up, there have been so many. I've grown up playing games, so it's kind of just this obvious thing for me. But there have been so many that I've played that have either from a gameplay perspective, that I've had countless hours of fun. It's provided me with just endless hours of distraction when things were hard, or on the storytelling side when they've managed to tell a story that actually it really impacted me, and it's I want to do that. I want to tell a story that can really touch a person's heart. I want to help provide a person with that dearly needed distraction, because sometimes you just need that. Sometimes the world gets hard on you, and it can be hard to take your mind off stuff, but if you can just get yourself immersed into a game, then all of a sudden all that stuff, all that baggage just disappears for a while.
Yeah, pretty much. But does the audience have any other questions for Garrus?
Now that we've gotten all sappy.
Yeah, now we got all touchy feely.
I'm not exactly sure how I got sucked into this whole thing, but
Come on, Greg, let's talk about your feelings.
Yeah, Greg. It's time for you to lay on the couch. Let's talk
I
about
don't-
Greg.
I don't-
Those Yu-Gi-Oh players.
I don't have any feelings.
Yeah, fuck those guys. Their damn pot of greed drawing two more cards. That shit's banned.
Damn, I remember those days. I remember when Yu-Gi-Oh came out. Jesus.
I see a couple of things I just want to comment on really quickly, and because we do have we have a couple of fellow streamers that are in the audience tonight, right along with OldmanGeras. Insomnia Night RPG has been a really unique partner for us to help us get into this and get the streaming piece of this going. Just an FYI for the folks that are watching tonight. I mean, our intention has never been and is not to be streamers. That's not what our goal is at all. We really are doing this more for the branding aspect of it, of getting ourselves out there and being able to get story and content to the people to you, to everybody. And this is a free platform. Well, free in the sense that we can share the content with people for free. And, ideally get some people engaged along the way and into our content. So Insomnia and Night RPG been a fantastic, aid to this channel, and I really do encourage you, if you haven't checked him out before, go do that. Show him some love. And T-Cat's just awesome. That's it. That's the end. She gets just
that sums up TCAT pretty solid.
It does.
Pretty succinct. But yeah, I mean, and again, thank you to all of you guys that show up, the regulars, the newcomers, Insomnia and I, TCAT, all of you guys. Garrus, when he's not guest starring, he's always in the chat.
I only try to kill the people I love.
Don't we all? Don't we all? But yeah, I mean that's kind of what this whole endeavor is for us. Anyway, it's building that community piece, but definitely getting ourselves out there, putting ourselves in front of you guys to hopefully start building that community, and when we have something of our own to bring to the table and show off for you guys. You guys get to enjoy it and build those memories. It is coming. It's coming along fairly well. Also, I would like to say.
On that note, really quickly, let's kind of go through a little bit of that. For all intents and purposes, we have a project going on right now for an actual game system that we are creating. That's going to be a while. We are working on supporting content, more or less modules for the game concepts that we are demonstrating in the stream. Right now, that's Cyberpunk. And we're kind of building out a little bit of a world there. And soon to be Alien, from Free League Press.
Yep.
And I guess tonight's a good night to just kind of put this out there as well. We are also going to be doing some pre-release playthroughs, kind of one-shots for some of the upcoming games for Free League Press. So that'll be happening here very soon. One of them is that we're looking at right now is a version of Pirate Board. So
that's going to be fun.
Yeah, and The Walking Dead will be later this year. So we will be we'll be doing a pre-release stream of The Walking Dead universe.
We'll also be doing, and this probably might be a surprise to Greg, but for those of you guys who don't know, Free League Press has a game, a supplement to their One Ring TTRPG that they came out. I think it was 2017, and I have it pulled up. Through the Doors of Durin, the One Ring TTRPG is actually in Kickstarter currently, and we're planning on when that finally launches, doing something for that as well. Again, we have a lot of what's the term? We have a lot of irons in the forge. There we go.
I was going to say, if you said money, I was going to shoot you.
No. I wish. One day. Yeah. Look, one day we'll have that corporate jet. Okay, that's all I'm saying. Yeah. And it won't be a Lego. It won't be a fucking Lego.
It'll be high quality Matchbox. So.
That's
exactly. There we go.
Right. We accept nothing less. But so we got a lot of irons in the fire for you guys, and we're excited to be doing this, and hopefully you guys are excited to come along on these journeys and watch our characters fumble and probably barely make it out the other end. Let's be honest. Robots not kind to us.
Well, I'm glad you finally admitted that. It's Robot, not me.
I mean, you're the one who put the game together, so I'm just saying, Robot's just your tool. You're still the one pulling the trigger. But yeah, I think that is it. That is episode 18. First guest appearance with the awesome OldmanGeras. Good news though, it won't be the last time he shows up here. I promise you. We'll get him on again.
Hey, Garrus, do you have any closing thoughts you'd like to share?
Wow. If you're looking to open up your store, think about your community. That's, if you haven't heard me say that tonight. Know your audience, know who you're doing it for. If you're doing it because you want to just get magic packs discounted, probably want to look at other areas of getting it, because you're going to get very bored very quickly and not be successful. You'll lose money, trust me.
Awesome. Thank you
I don't
very
know.
much.
I don't have words of wisdom.
That's I'm just not very wise, so I can't really share words of wisdom either. Thank you very much for joining us this evening, Garrus. It has been an extreme pleasure to have you, here and to, have you as a friend to the channel and for us. So,
Yeah,
thank you very
100%.
much.
Agree with that.
Definitely.
Thank you for the invite.
Yeah, trust me, there'll be more.
And I also thank you for putting up with all the technical issues. But
yeah. It was
we figured it out, sort of.
Interesting run. But before we close out completely, Greg, would you like to talk about the upcoming episode on Friday?
Yes. So we will be rounding some things out on Friday for the BOR. The team has a couple of different paths that they can take at this point. That story's kind of in flux right now. They have the option of going and actually becoming actual agents for the BOR if they chose that path, which is kind of the bureaucracy path to it. And we've tied these paths to specific characters. So there's a character in the story named Lobos who has been communicating more directly with Raiden or Paul.
Yep. And
basically trying to bring them into the fold and at the same time deal with this rogue AI that they are aware of at this point. We have a second path there, which is the rogue AI itself, which currently is residing within one of our characters, Paradox. So that's a whole story in itself. They got to figure out how to deal with that situation. And then we have a third path that is developing from our resident fixer and sneaky rat fella, Scotty. Scotty's fun guy.
He's forming some plans. He's forming some plans.
Excellent. So we should get a start on that on Friday. It really is up to the players where we run that story to, because they're going to the way we run the story is very fluid, creating the framework that it goes into, and then the players flesh the story out. So from my standpoint, I really couldn't tell you what way it's going to go. That is up to them. So they'll be making decisions, maybe this Friday, maybe next Friday. Definitely join us and find out.
Yep. And for those of you who didn't catch it, there was actually a special episode kind of delving into Paradox's backstory. This past Monday. I highly recommend you guys go check it out. It's absolutely fantastic. And as for next Wednesday's episode 19 of the Update Log, we'll be talking about something I don't think sees a lot of, I guess, airtime is the best way I can put it. But how do you kind of run a studio and go about the daily grind of being a game developer when you don't have a hit, when you don't have a Baldur's Gate 3 or a Mass Effect, or you know when you don't have a big title that blew up. And there are a lot of studios out there who, and again, that's not saying these titles are bad. In no way am I saying that. There are a lot of studios out there who've put out some good stuff. It just hasn't taken off, and they're still trucking away. And they definitely deserve some spotlight in that regard.
Yeah,
And that'll be us next Wednesday. But sorry, you gonna say something, Matt?
yeah. I was just saying because I think that's just a lot of the industry because most likely the first thing you come out with isn't going to be a massive success that just makes waves in the industry.
Yeah. Gonna have a few duds, a few well received ones, and then there's gonna be that one that just catapults you. But yeah, that is episode 18 of the update log, and our first, not our last, guest appearance of OldmanGeras. We'll guys keep you posted. Trust me, we're gonna have more such guest appearances down the pipe. And again, thank you guys for coming out and joining us and having a good conversation and some good laughs. I wish you all a good evening, and yeah, that's it for us. See ya.
All
Good
right,
night,
see you guys
everybody.
next time.
We're going to raid
night,
into
everyone.
Little Bones.
All right.
Couple of seconds, and here we go.